What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on these analysis. We're going to be looking at MSTR and Bitcoin today, looking at different indicators and different charts. So we've been writing up our upward sloping trend line, bottom of this channel. As you can see here, it's been established for a very long time. We've had multiple touches, came pretty close to touching it, and then it looks like we ended up bouncing off of this horizontal level of support before touching it. We are still kind of in this compression zone, but it looks like we're trying to make our way out, at least on the weekly. We are outside of it currently, and we have 19 hours before we can kind of determine if we've actually broken out of this downward sloping trend line or not. We will see. It also depends on how you draw it. If you draw it a little bit differently, then we aren't even outside of it. At the same time, we still have that golden zone that we've been speaking of for a very long time. We were talking about that when we were back over in this region, that this would be a key level of resistance as we made our way up, and as we have pushed into it, you can see it's been acting as a lot of resistance, and we're finally trying to push through it, but we're halfway through. We still have much higher to go. To break out of this golden zone, we have to make it above 423 to get a close outside of this golden zone. And this is a bearish pull to the downside, so this is projecting that price could go down. Of course, that doesn't mean that that has to happen, but that's what golden zone is indicating. So we ended up getting a close outside of the downward sloping trend line. Then we got a reversal, a very steep sell-off yesterday. And then today we got a reversal of the reversal right back up. And we closed at 402.28. And now we're sitting at 400.35 post hours. Let's see what happens tomorrow. We will definitely want to get a nice close outside of it. If we could even push up to 420, that would be incredibly bullish. That'd be nice to see to close the week off. That would be extremely bullish because you'd be breaking out of the downward sloping trend line and you'd be outside of the golden zone. That would be the perfect scenario for a retest of this zone and then pushing up and meeting resistance here at that 450 to 437 region. Overall, though, it was a pretty solid day. Bull flag is still intact, still looks very good. And when we measure that out on the small scale or the smaller scale, measure that out to the top here, and you're sitting around 650 for that target. Hopefully it plays out, and that bull flag is within a major bull flag right here, and that one is the one that takes us to our larger target to this upside here, which would coincide with the third touch of the top of the trend line and channel. So hopefully that does play out. That's what we're hoping for, of course. And when you pull fib from this top here for this bull flag, and we extend it out, you can see that we made it to the 3272 to the 3, but price was really playing within the 2618 to the 2272. That was where price spent most of its time. When we take a look on the weekly, it's easier to see here. So you can see that right there. Let me take this red dot off. Okay, so yeah, you can see that we really stayed within this range here of the 2618 to the 2272. And when you pull that same move here for this flagpole, we're looking at that region here, and that's how I have this box drawn out to the 2618 to the 2272. So that would be the same region right here where price was kind of chopping at, which would take us anywhere from 1237 to around 1080 for the next consolidation if it were to play out for a right translated cycle. Of course, if it's a left translated cycle, then this last move would probably be the final move. And if we were to make it to the 3 and the 3272 as we did over here, which I don't know if we will because that was a very, very dramatic spike up in price, that would take you to 1520 to around 1400, which would be very, very nice to see. But remember, you can take profits along the way. You don't have to wait all the way to the top to try and sell. You can take bits and pieces off as it increases, so you can at least have something in case price were to fall off and that was the end of the move. You don't want to miss out completely and watch all your profits go back to zero. Here on the weekly, we are still holding above our 20 and our 50. We got a bounce off the 50, and we've made a pretty significant move ever since April 7th that week. So let's see if we can continue the momentum to the upside. Here on the daily SMA, you can see we're holding above it, the 20 and the 50. We closed back underneath, and then we opened slightly above the 20, but underneath the 50, and then we absolutely pushed very, very hard today to the upside, 7.7% day, which is very nice to see. Hopefully we can continue the momentum. I know it's been plenty of bearish time. As you can see, we've had this area of just downward momentum, and then we've had this extended move here of just downward momentum. So you're talking about, we've only had like, I don't even know what this is, April 9th. So we've had 1 month of bullishness since November 20th. So it's been definitely a tough time. But as long as you have a long-term mindset and you can dollar cost average into the next cycle, you should be okay. Not financial advice, of course. And here on the 4 hour, kind of the same concept where we were underneath the 20 and the 50, closed back above, and we skyrocketed off of that move. This is just to show that the move is not over yet here on global liquidity. As you can see, we are ramping up higher. This thing is continuously pushing up higher, breaking previous highs as it goes, which is a very, very bullish sign for Bitcoin for a nice extended move. As we continue to push up higher, that's just going to show that Bitcoin will have a longer and longer move. The longer this thing continues to push up, the longer Bitcoin's rise will be. How high is a completely different question, so of course we'll find out with time. And we'll be using different indicators to kind of guide us in the right direction. On the weekly RSI, creating higher highs and higher lows, we fell underneath our yellow moving average and then we pushed back up. Looks like we're getting some kind of double bottom form off of this move here, and it's looking pretty nice. Once we break that 67 region, I think we can potentially shoot up to that 70 overbought area for a nice extended move. And here we had a V-shaped recovery after we fell underneath the yellow moving average on the daily RSI, and we kind of just pushed back. Very nice to see it. On the weekly MACD, we're kind of in the same spot. We did get the green flip, and the blue is starting to separate from the orange. As you can see here, it's starting to push back up, and we have a little bull flag being formed. So let's see where it takes us. Here on the daily, we had our green flip. We saw the momentum drop back down, and then we got to push back up. But we are creating higher highs and higher lows ever since, June 23rd or so. It is creating a nice little bit of momentum to the upside to help sustain price where it's at with strength and volume. And we kind of have the same concept here on the 4 hour as well. You can see the momentum and volume a little bit better here, but hopefully we can start to see a nice exaggerated move like that or like this over here. In the last video, we did speak about a potential retest and this turning into the wick and this being the start of the body of the candle to the upside. And right now that's exactly what's happening. So this is looking pretty good. The reason we said that is because we closed here on the weekly well above a key level of support. So you're not going to just close above a key level of support and not come and retest it. You're going to come back to retest it. That's just how it's going to work. So, and that retest happened to just be, a 3% pullback on Bitcoin. So we push back to 105. 100 to kind of see if we actually want to hold this level or fall back through, and then we pushed right back up. So that was a pretty quick reversal. Honestly, it wasn't even a reversal, it was really just a retest to this level, and things are looking pretty good right now. We are breaking out of this downward sloping trend line, especially when you take a look here on the weekly. We do have 4 days left, so that's plenty of time for things to flip back over because this is still early. But it's nice to see a wick early on in the week. With some momentum, this could end up being a nice weekly candle. But like I said, keep this in the back of your mind that this could still end up pushing back down later. So it could turn out a wick from here, looking super bullish, reject, and then turn into a bearish candle. So that's always a possibility, but it is looking like the most likely outcome is a bullish candle and a continuation to the upside. Especially if you get a close above this key level here at 110 and a of course, if we close above all-time highs at 112, that would be incredibly bullish. Honestly, anywhere within this region of a close would be insanely bullish. Because even if you don't close above all-time highs, but you close above these two wicks at, about 111, that's still almost as bullish as closing above 112. Things are looking pretty good right now for Bitcoin. On the daily, we still have 2 hours and 36 minutes. So if we can push back above and close at 110,700, that would be a very, very nice setup to make it to all-time highs. Because once you push above that 110,800 region, it should be a clean move to all-time highs. When you take a look here to the left-hand side above this line here, there really isn't much traffic, so you could have a clean move up there. And once you break that, enter price discovery. But the last key level of resistance that I see would be the connection of these highs over here, connecting to the highs in 2024 and 2025. That would be the last level. And once we break that, for instance, if we were to break it this week, or if here, let me take it out on the weekly. On the weekly, if we were to break it this week, we'd be sitting at around 117, and next week would be like 117,500. So depending on when we break it, that'll determine the price. But once we break that line, I think we could start to see some significant moves, maybe a little bit of FOMO to bring people back in, get some hype around Bitcoin and crypto related assets. And here on the 4 hour, we were saying if we got to close back above this wick, that would increase the likelihood of pushing to the top of the range. We were saying that this downward sloping trend line would be a key level of resistance, which it was for this first move. But on this next one, we broke through it and we pushed right through. So now we're just finding a little bit of rejection and a little pullback here at the top of the range that you can see here. It's this key level. And we see on the 4 hour, it looks a little different, but we already closed inside of that key level of support and resistance. So that's pretty bullish. Maybe this is just a pullback to retest this level and a continuation to the upside. A little breather, because when you take a look at the 4 hour candles, you can see this is incredibly bullish. I mean, 5 or 6 candles of just pretty much engulfing candles to the upside. So you do need some kind of cool off for price, because if you go up too steep, sometimes you can come back just as steep to the downside. And when we take a look at the 8 EMA here on the weekly for Bitcoin, we closed above it, and that weekly candle retest was right almost to the 8 EMA, and then we shot right off of it. So that was a pretty bullish sign, and that is likely to continue the momentum to the upside. MSTR divided by IBIT. So we fell underneath this upward sloping trend line after yesterday. We closed, and then we closed back inside of it, which is a bullish sign. So maybe we retest it tomorrow and potentially bounce off of it, or we just continue the momentum to the upside, hopefully. Once we pass 668, I think we could have a clean move to about 6.95. And this is nice to see to the upside, because this is showing that MSTR is outperforming Bitcoin, which is why we are in MSTR, because we wanted to leverage on Bitcoin to outperform Bitcoin. So on the SMAs, we almost made it to the 200, but we didn't make it quite there. But we did get a bounce off of the 20, and now we are going to have to face the 50-day SMA, which is going to be a key level of resistance at 6.56 or so. So we're going to need to get a close above it like we did the other day on June 30th. So if we can close back above it, it would increase the likelihood of getting a retest and pushing up higher. On Tether Dominance, we spoke about this trend line for some time now, a couple days or maybe a week or so. We were saying if we were to close underneath this trend line, that we'd find some kind of resistance, retest it, and once you break the primary trend line, that you'd fall to the secondary trend line. And it looks like that's exactly what's happening. We broke underneath this one, retested, and now I'm going to take it off. And then we pushed down to this one. We almost touched it. We're pretty close. So hopefully we can break this one, get a close underneath this key level of support. Once we do that, retest this level, and then push down to this 4.42, so about 4.37 level, and eventually break that. As this goes down, Bitcoin goes up. As it goes up, Bitcoin goes down. So they are inversely correlated. For anybody who hasn't seen it, I will zoom out to show you now. So you can see Bitcoin's local tops happened whenever we touch this blue line here, this curvature right there. So as you can see here, we topped there. You can see it happening again, time and time again on those red dots. So those are the local tops for these moves. And you can see that one as well here. So the inverse correlation. So as we continue to the downside and we make contact with that, that will potentially be that top for Bitcoin, wherever that is. Maybe it's up here, and then we start to fall once this blue line is met. For anybody who hasn't seen this chart, it's a very, very important chart to keep your eye out on for local tops. But we want to see bearishness on this chart because this is going to show risk on behavior, which involves buying crypto-related assets like Bitcoin, Solana, and so on, and for the stock market in general. That's all I have for you guys here today. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.